Hey everybody, how we doing? Jason Stocks here, aka the Sunnyvale Reject, author of Blameforest, finalist for the 2024 American Legacy Book Award in Contemporary Poetry, and Laughing is Forever. It's been nominated for the New York City Big Book Award and the North Street Book Prize, I think. Guys, today we're going to do a video based on some comments that I've gotten recently from subscribers, from friends, from scholars that know what the hell they're talking about, asking me about such things as craft talks and where my foundation in reading comes from. And if you don't mind, I'd like to address a couple of those topics right here, right now. So let's start first from where my foundation in reading comes from. I am from Mississippi, from the deep South, and contrary to popular belief, I grew up like a lot of folks I knew with a classical education. You end up studying music, you study Latin or Greek, you read classical works. I'm talking about ancient Greece, Rome, things like that. You study architecture because the beautiful Greek revival and other, just amazing architectural styles abound in the South, so it's all around you, and you don't have to delve too deeply into any entertainment arena before people from Mississippi's names begin to surface, like blues. Willie Dixon's from my hometown of Vicksburg, B.B. King, people like that. Let's see, writers, my God, Eudora Welty, not Flannery O'Connor, Eudora Welty, William Faulkner, Larry Brown, Barry Hannah, Donna Tartt. Prolific, award-winning writers abound as well. So I grew up knowing that there was an outlet, let's just say, and I didn't grow up privileged at all. But I did have a rich home life in the sense that my dad collected reptiles, for example, worked on and loved cars, and he also listened to great music. And I think that's where my first notion of what it meant to be a writer, or what writing was, or how writing was a form of conveyance for your emotional state, trauma, things like that. But you're looking at an album cover and the lyrics are on the left margin, they don't go across the page. And I would study those, man. I loved those days, looking at everything from Leonard Skinner to Pink Floyd, the Beatles, B.B. King, Ozzy Osbourne, all these, famous, and influential bands, and I'm reading their lyrics. And at the time, I'd already experienced some things, even as a young child, and no use in hiding it now, but my parents fought a lot. There wasn't enough money to go around. Often there wasn't enough food in the house, really, things like that, and so at an early age, I could identify with some of the angst and some of the sadness in the tone of these songs, and so as a young child, I started to write ghost stories, gang stories, things like that, because I was heavy into hip-hop, well into my damn 30s, honestly. But this was when I was a young kid. MTV was just coming out, so I saw music and writing and those other forms of entertainment as a way to get it all out, But I didn't, in elementary school, I would read things like Hardy Boys, Choose Your Own Adventure. The first novel I ever read, was Robinson Crusoe. And then I met a girl in college. I think she was in high school. I just graduated, and she loved books and, came from a literary family. And I think she looked down on me because I wasn't really into reading. And to impress her and to win her over, I really needed that common bond, so she got me 1984, and I read the book and I fell in love, and the rest was history. And I ended up, reading stuff like A Tale of Two Cities. Oh, I loved Dickens. Let's see, John Kennedy Toole. What was it? A Confederacy of Dunces. Lots of Faulkner. Lots of Flannery O'Connor. Everything that rises. Everything that rises must converge. And what was the name of the book, the novel that she wrote? Oh, damn, what was it? Not The Violent Bear It Away. Was that it? Or was that a book of short stories? Damn, I'll have to come back to that novel. But anyway, those Southern masters. In fact, I've got some books here. As far as the fiction goes, because that was the first thing I ever really studied was fiction. I fell in love with Ray by Barry Hannah, which I've shown you before. But this is a tiny little book, and it's only about 113 pages, and it packs a punch, buddy, let me tell you. And other voices, other rooms, the sound and the fury. I was much more influenced by fiction, and these fiction writers, we shared a similar experience. They did not make me hate my own accent or my own tradition, which is very rich. These guys, made me face it head on. Not that I'm glorifying or anything like that, but none of us are perfect, and we all have these dark spots in our cultures. No matter where you're from, no matter the color of your skin or your religion, there's a dark spot just under the surface of your culture, your creed, whatever it may be, and none of us are safe from, not safe from, but none of us can hide from that fact. Let's just say, or point fingers. But when I went to I barely scraped out of college. I just scraped by, really. If it wasn't for sports and a girl, I probably wouldn't have made it at all. But in college, my college life is sporadic. I went, everywhere from, University of Southern Mississippi, where I studied under Mary Robeson, and Frederick Bartolome was the program director, I think, at the time. And, Belhaven, William Carey College, what was some of the others? Goddard, where I graduated from, which is a very selective school. I studied under Poet Laureate there. I went to Pine Manor, studied under another Poet Laureate, and Cave Canem fellow, I think, Nicole Therese Dutton. But it was at Goddard. I was just sitting on the steps one day. I'd checked this book out from the library, and it was called, it was by Catherine Sheppy, and it was called Sanja Sakula, Grace in a Cow's Eye. And it did amazing. This book, the author did amazing things with color, because Sanja Sakula was an artist, and this book was about her and her work. And she painted beautiful little pictures, epigrammatical, small little poems that use a lot of white space. And she was able to say a lot with very little use of words. Excuse me. And ever since I read that book, everything I wrote looked like poetry, right? And let's get this out of the way. What is poetry? What is poetry not? I don't know what poetry is or what it's not. I'll leave that to you, because as the writer, as a creator, you can call it whatever you want. But there are some things right off the bat that distinguish poetry from, say, prose. For one way is that it is left margin lineated and the lines don't go across the page, right? There's a much more lean and efficient use of language, because there's no room to hide fluff, really. Like, every word matters, you know what I'm saying? The use of literary devices is more visual, it's more obvious, again, because there's not a lot of fluff. So if you have alliteration or, use simile or metaphor or whatever it may be, it's going to show more, because you're looking at a novel's skeleton, really, a novel's outline. And going back to reading Faulkner and Larry Brown and Barry Hannah, Donna Tartt, those writers, what I did was basically write fiction and use line breaks to break it down into poetry. And that's another thing. A beautiful line might get lost in a novel, but it stands out in poetry because of where the line breaks. And not only do poets use punctuation and white space to establish rhythm, but line breaks, they establish rhythm, they control the reader's eyes. And that's important, because when you're looking at a poetry, it looks different before anything else, right? And you want it to be a stimulating image, but poetry looks different. You can put a stanza here, a stanza here, a stanza here, and there's white space in between. And that white space is symbolic too of sometimes what is not said, you know what I mean? And poetry is also, a lot more stylistic. In fact, some of the poetry books that inspired me, I have right here, E. Cummings, and I probably don't have to go too far. See, the use of white space. Line breaks are critical for him, because he would have a poem within a poem. He would have a poem and then in parentheses have another poem, Let's see. Look at this. Here's a perfect example. There's all kinds of things going on here. So you ask me, what is poetry? Well, this is poetry, right? And let me find one of my longer poems. This is poetry as well. So what poetry is just depends on what you want it to be. But keep this in mind, as you're writing poetry, you're writing on a computer, right, which comes out with those big pieces of paper. What size is that? 9 by 11, 8.5 by 10, some shit like that, right? I'd be lying if I said I know for sure. I don't know. But I do know this. When you go from writing on a computer and then you go to a 6 by 9 novel, all of your lines are going to break anyway. So there's a lot of editing and revising that goes into the manuscript right before you get it published, because that's something I don't think a lot of people are aware of, that it changes size and it breaks your poems down in different places, which disturbs the rhythm, it disturbs the transition from stanza to stanza, it destroys the architecture behind it, the way the poem looks on the page. All these things must be considered. And let's just stop there. That's about it for today. That's enough to take in and to process, right? I told you a little bit about myself. I told you a little bit about my foundation and a little bit about the differences between poetry and prose. How about this? How about I read a couple of poems from Laughing is Forever and Blameforest? We'll start with Blameforest. Let's see. One that's not too long at first, because I have a tendency to be long-winded, because I cut my teeth on Faulkner and Donna Tartt, who writes a book about every damn 10 years. This is Rise and Shine from Blameforest. Masculinity was seen over the dashboard of an old Jeep or Ford that reeked of gasoline. Who was I to interpret that moment? The same speck of dust I am today, the same junkyard kid from Oak Ridge. Negativity clings to me like an NFL receiver's shrink-wrapped jersey fits so tightly over his shoulder pads so defenders can't grab hold so easily. Though I shed like a 10-year-old Labrador retriever, my face feels like if I was looking at myself, I'd be Wimpy Halstead's dead wife. While walking through the woods in Mississippi as a teen, I seen many thick-ass venomous snakes mistaken for Satan. Copperheads, cottonmouths, canebrakes, the deadish, unblinking eyes, cat-like under squares of rusted tin in the tall weeds round the hunting camp cabin, waiting for prey. Or sunning among the ivy-engulfed lattice-works of antebellum mansions I worked at and got fired from, some more than once, coiled up, patiently waiting. The old homes still stood like bold immigrants looking for work among so many early patriots. There were cannonball holes in the porches and roofs of most of them. Owners patched them up with plexiglass, but they were meant to be seen, I'm saying. Tourists enjoy the thought of us suffering still. It makes for a more rewarding, theme-style vacation. I'm in South Florida now. That was back in the River City, the Hill City, where the Civil War was lost. Home of the Gators, home of the Vikings, home of those who ate rats and drank piss to survive, to persist beyond the sins of their kin. There you go. There you go. There's one from Blameforest. That's called Rise and Shine. Let's see what else we got here. Here's one people often have questions about, also from Blameforest. This is called Wives' Tale. Spin a good one about how I'm never there. See what happens. See if anyone cares for long. Cook up confectionery lies about me like old witches in old-growth forests, jealous of young brides, hungry for healthy, panic-stricken, prepubescent children, all cackling, nude dancing and spell singing round a bubbling cauldron. That's you. Your people, jungle, ritual, superstition. I just enjoy watching boxing and drinking to dull the pain. The me who wants to keep his job and buy a home sees you. But he only exists 8 hours a day. Jobs come and go. Love is hook, if love is what it is. And bait for babes, shook from the safety, the warm, salty mac and cheese comfort of pleasant dreams too soon. Prayed over, lied to, midwinter nights, in cities with names with too many syllables. Too many full moons to have a break from the crazies. That's me. Well, it's where I reside at least, so I belong in the country. I need to go. I could never love that ugly face anyway. That ugly face, that ugly fucking patient, privileged, pretty, indigenous face. Not witch-like at all, but classical. Made up, just and only for me, in this hateful city I need to leave. Even if y'all won't come with me. Worse than an alcoholic, country-singing truck driver gone already. drink in hand, shifting gears. I may be scared, but I'll close my eyes, throw the covers over me, and you won't exist. Won't have existed, ever existed. That's mist I see out the window, taking shape, not the living memory of the girl and legacy I let get away. That's Wives' Tale, Blameforest. Let's see. How about something a little bit humorous? So there's some humor in this one. Those other two are pretty serious. This one's serious too, but at the same time there's a playful nature to it. It's called Fingers Crossed. I wait for her never showing upness in the dripping, humid shade of my grandpa's woodshed, listening to life inside the walls all around me. Wasps, with their legs crossed, hover in the uppermost angles of gables like ghosts with terrible news they can't wait to deliver. Waiting for a girl is like getting dressed for church and dreading it knowing your grandmother will embarrass you by speaking in tongues. While exploring the rustic structure, I find my uncle's footlocker from when he was in the Navy. Model cars, porno pics, letters, pistol. My grandpa hides his hooch here too. It's covered in dust like a genie's lamp. After blowing it off, particles float in the seeped-in light bars like spirit orbs. I steal a swig or three. That fine muscadine wine, aged almost to vinegar, makes me so dizzy I believe Jesus is everywhere and loves me. Red wasps, bright red, the mean ones, have made a home above my head. That's why this place is safe. They'll sting if you look at 'em wrong. It's difficult even to think of sinful things or else they sting. So I'll wait and whittle a little bit. Sharp knife, thick wrists, soft stick. A shape emerges. A boy waiting in a shed full of relics. Rusty nails intend to snag his shoulders and toes on, then die from a hick disease. It was pirates who sliced me. Tetanus. Was a shark what bit me. My scars are any damn thing I want them to be. Waiting for a girl who never shows up ever but knows just what to say always. Dizzy with the thought of Jesus loving us and being everywhere at once, not judging us. Damn it. I messed up right there at the end, but you get it. No going back now. Nothing I do is ever edited or scripted, and because you can't do that in life, man. I say that all the time about being in my classroom, but you just can't do it. So, anyway, that's some poems from Blameforest. Let's check out. Maybe I can read you a couple from Laughing is Forever. And if you guys have a chance, I'd be honored if you pick it up. If you get it from Pango Books, I'll be able to inscribe it to you, and that'd be a great honor. You guys are really important to me, and I spend a lot of time with you, just like I do my students, All right, so this is Freedom. Freedom from Laughing is Forever. Everything is angles to him. He sees the truth in power lines. Stop signs is all lies. He wants to die like a rock star, coked out and rock hard. He wants to go out on top, having earned $1 or two. Stamps from France and Peru in his passport. Leave his son some other legacy than loss and poverty. But his credit is bad. His name is Mud. He still listens to Clutch CDs and drives a gas-guzzling F-150. His name is Mud, because he'd been run through it. And he has a son who has green eyes just like him, who listens to everyone and everything and watches everyone and everything just like him. Baby be drinking breast milk from a bottle on the couch, him outside looking in, laying slant like all the light in Faulkner's Yachna Patafa. The Anglishness of it makes him want to play piano or learn a trade. From outside looking through a window, to do something important with his hands. He thinks this, with brains the size of Anne Sexton's tits. Thinks about how it makes him want to find a way to be useful, except he's lazy, like his kin. And so he watches me scribble and doodle in a notebook. Then he'll look over at the baby and back, numb-faced. And then I look numb-faced over at my own dirt-faced, snot-nosed little shit kids as if I was one of them bundrins. Then a snicker comes up his throat. And across his face, now this is the grown-up babies, from a place he'll never really appreciate. And he can barely see out the crack of his window-lived life. But yep, there he goes, toothy grin. like a dummy running toward the road, arms dangling, sweaty with the anticipation of giving advice to strangers on their way to that muddy-ass lake so they can stick their arms down the throats of catfish and get baptized in shit like the white trash crackers they is. That's freedom. From Laughing is Forever. It just came out in May. And this is Birds. Can't appreciate shit till I've lost it all. Being here is somehow your fault. This loblolly pine will never die. Everything I do is failure. Our home is old, but it's new to you. I have Lyme disease. Will never feel better. Brain is damaged. Wish I felt better. A song from when we were alive is stuck in my mind like something cigar-shaped that fell from the sky. Your aura is the color of my sorrow. Orange, gold, green. So goddamn tired of feeling low. This tree will never die. Flayed by things said. By things kids say with knives. Let's never say goodbye. Nor ever turn away from these days, but conquer, destroy, rebuild. Let's just be birds till it passes. Some birds are ugly. Let's not be ugly birds, okay? With dull feathers and beady eyes, but birds that blend in with the wind. Birds that don't fly, but that are flown. Sorry, so sorry. I have dirt roads up my nose and a sneeze is coming on. Pardon me in advance for being so stuck in the past. There you go. Here's another one from Laughing is Forever, maybe my last one. I can hear people walking around and using the bathroom and stuff upstairs, so it's only a matter of time before somebody comes down. So thank you guys for sticking with me. I really appreciate you guys all the time, not just now, but always, because I'm far from perfect. Hell, far from perfect. And you guys still watch my videos and leave cool-ass comments. And I don't know, you make this feel very rewarding and redeeming. Because we're having great conversations and this is a good, safe space. So thank you, thank you, thank you for everything. Pardon. Laughing is Forever. Mama always says we can suffocate boredom and hate with warm buttermilk biscuits under ladles of tomato gravy. Call it breakfast for dinner. Put a blues record on, someone no one knows, like Daniel Castro, Eden Brent, or Lil Green. Please, excuse me. When I'm just getting home from work, all dirty and tired and crushed, my bones tend to speak the truth. Maybe you should give me a few minutes before you ask about my day and expect me to only say, good shit. There you go. I'm shutting up. I've talked long enough, but I hope some of this was useful to you. Here's a couple of other poetry books that really inspired me, and if you're into poetry, check it out. If you can find it, it's Radio Time by Walter Butts. This is a beautiful, poignant book. Richly detailed book. Lots of great similes, lots of, metaphor and all the things you look for in great poetry. But this guy's a smooth storyteller, and he's dead now, and I really miss him. I studied under him for 2 years at Goddard. And James Dickey's Buck Dancer's Choice, winner of the National Book Award. You'll love it. I mean, very experimental stuff, very masculine. He was a great writer, a great ad executive too, and he employed those tactics that won people over in advertising in his poetry. And if you read it, maybe you can learn to employ those same tactics, which is what we talk about when we talk about literary devices. It's not enough just to know them and recognize them so that you can realize what authors are doing to plant the seed in your mind, but also you can use those same tactics to win and plant the seed that you're trying to impart to others. That's it. I'm shutting up. I hope you found something useful in this video. Get out there, enjoy the day, stay cool, and never stop reading.